Hello and welcome back to the Ash and Stone channel. My name is Chris, and in this video I'd like to show you how I go about painting Oathmark Dwarves. I start with a black undercoat, as the majority of the model will be painted with metallics. Speaking of which, grab some Vallejo steel and a crappy old brush, and we'll just slather it all over the metal areas. We're aiming for a fairly even coverage. Dwarven metalwork is said to be pretty good, so let's give it a good solid base. Next up, I'll grab some Vallejo English uniform and, using a nicer brush, paint the trousers. Once that's dry, out comes the army painted dark tone, and I give all of the metal areas and the trousers a wash. I want that mail well defined. This will take a while to dry, but once the areas around the face and hands are dry, I'll crack out the Vallejo medium flesh tone and paint the areas of skin. It'll take a couple of coats, being a light colour over a black undercoat. While that dries, I'll grab the English uniform again and reapply the base coat to the trousers, leaving the deeper folds in shadow. Adding some Vallejo desert yellow to the English uniform, about 50-50, I apply a highlight to the high areas of the cloth. By this time, the skin has dried, and I grab Army Painter Flesh Wash and apply it all over the face and hands. Now can be a good time to paint the eyes, so once the flesh wash is dried, I grab some black and a fine brush and carefully paint a horizontal line across each of the eyes. One big advantage to doing the eyes now instead of later is that if you make a mistake and get paint all over the place, it can be covered up in later steps without having to go back and redo previous work. The black is followed up with white. 2 dots are applied on either side of the eye using small vertical motions, leaving a black line in the centre and ideally a thin black outline. When happy, I go back to the medium flesh tone and apply the base colour to the skin, leaving the dark wash in the recesses and on the bottom lip, and fixing any mistakes made while painting the eyes. This is followed up with Vallejo basic skin tone, mixed 50-50 with the medium skin tone to create a highlight, which I apply to the high points like the nose, the top of the cheeks, and the knuckles. For the dwarf's tunic, I'll be using Vallejo Refractive Green. I like to vary up the greens I use on each model, keeping the colours similar, but adding a bit of variety. I often use Russian Green, Luftwaffe Camouflage Green, US Dark Green, or German Field Grey World War II, because I'm a nerd. I also paint the mantle or hood at this stage. This is followed up with Army Painter Military Shader, which is washed all over the green areas. Once that's dry, you guessed it, reapply the base colour, leaving the wash in the recesses. I add some Vallejo Iraqi sand to the green at about a 25-75 mix and highlight the tunic, focusing on the high points of the folds. I'm going to give this guy a fiery ginger beard, and so I grab some Vallejo Orange Brown and apply it to the hair and beard. Once again, this will take a couple of coats. I mix in some Iraqi sand at about a 50-50 ratio and give the hair and beard a rough highlight, before adding some more Iraqi sand, 75-25, and push those highlights just a little more. Grabbing some Army Painter Soft Tone, I focus it mainly around the mouth and cheeks to add a little bit of definition to those areas. Next up, I grab some Vallejo Japanese Uniform World War II, a nice mustard yellow, and I paint on some decorations on the sleeve of the tunic, just to break up the green. This is a nice way of adding some extra detail to the flat areas of the model, and it's quick and easy to achieve. The main thing to focus on is keeping the lines even. Now, with some Vallejo chocolate brown, I'll be working on the leather and wood. As usual, when I'm painting over the black undercoat, I'm not too worried about getting an even coat, as variation adds to the leather or wood texture. But when I paint over areas that have already been covered with steel, I want to make sure the metallic colour is not visible beneath the brown. As usual, Vallejo Flat Earth is next, which is used to add a rough, patchy highlight to the leather areas. Vallejo Beige Brown is next, and I use this to base coat the leather apron and to paint quick lines on the wooden hammer handle to add some wood grain. I follow that up with Vallejo Green Brown, which is used to highlight the leather apron and add further wood grain to the hammer handle. The wood and leather is finished off with Army Painter's strong tone, which is liberally washed over the brown areas. I finish up the wrapped hammer grip with some Vallejo German Camouflage Beige World War II, which is given a light wash with dark tone. Once we give the model a blast with Tamiya Flat Clear, it's on to highlighting the metal. So back to Vallejo Steel. I apply this to the areas of plate along the shoulders, the helmet, leaving a dark wash in the recesses and around the rivets, the hammerhead, focusing mainly on the edges. I give the mail a very light highlight to catch some of the higher links. And I pick out the belt buckle and knife pommel. While I'm thinking about the knife, I paint the grip in black before I forget about it. Again. The figure is ready for basing, so I apply grout and static grass using a bit of glue and paint the rim black. The shields are up next. I've spray undercoated these using Army Painter Leather Brown on the back and Army Painter Matte White on the front. The backs are given a quick wash using strong tone, and the shield boss is base coated with black and then steel. While waiting for that to dry, I paint the rear rim of the shield Camouflage Beige World War II. The shield boss is then given a wash of Army Painter Dark Tone. Decals from Little Big Men Studios are cut out and applied to the front of the shields. To apply these decals, once they are cut out, you remove the clear plastic from the coloured side of the decal. Lightly sticking the edge of the decal to the very tip of a hobby knife will make it much easier to control and apply. You line up the hole in the decal with the shield boss, coloured side down, and press the decal down using your finger. The knife can then be pulled away. Wet the paper of the decal using a brush. You can be fairly liberal with the water. Give it a couple of seconds and then slide the paper away. If the paper is getting caught on the rim of the shield, such as here, you can use a knife to prick the paper and flick it off, being careful not to cut the decal underneath. Once the paper is removed, use a damp brush to press the decal into position and make sure it is properly stuck down. I then give the shield a blast with some Tamiya Flat Clear. Once dry, cut the shield out with some flush cutters, trim away the flash and mould lines, and glue it to the figure using super glue. Almost there. Paint the shield rim, both front and along the edge, with German Camouflage Beige World War II, and give the boss a quick highlight with steel. And we are done. I do hope you have found this video useful. Thank you very much for sticking around, and we shall see you next time. Cheers!